Hello students, now we are discussing in the second chapter of your 10th standard, that is polynomial. Is it right, children? So in your earlier classes you already learnt about, you have heard that polynomial. Is it right? In your previous class we have learnt about the polynomials in one variable, their zeros and factorization. Right, children? Yes. In this chapter we will continue our discussion on polynomials and study about geometrical meaning of zeros, relationship between zeros and coefficients, formation of quadratic and cubic polynomial, division algorithm for polynomials, and method of finding the remaining zeros of a polynomial when some of its zeros are given. So once again we have to revise the points of the chapter polynomial. What do you mean by polynomial? So you have to understand correctly. So already I written the meaning on the board. Polynomial. Polynomial means an expression of the form p of x is equal to a0 a1 x plus a2 into x square plus dash 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 an x to the power n, where an is not equal to 0 is called a polynomial in x of degree n. Have you understood what is the meaning of polynomial? Polynomial means an expression of the form. If they given any expression p of x, we are generally saying p of x like f of x, anything. P of x is equal to a1 plus a1x plus a2x square plus dash dash plus an x to the power n, where an does not equal to 0 is called a polynomial in x of degree n. Here a1, a2, a0, a1, a2 dash dash an, they are called real numbers. They are known as real numbers, and each power of x is a non-negative integer. The power of the x, that is always non-negative integer. If it is a negative integer, then it is not a polynomial. Example, you can take here 3x plus 5 is a polynomial in x of degree 1. 8x square minus 5x plus 3 is a polynomial in x of degree 2. What is the degree of this polynomial? It is a 2. So what is the degree of the polynomial? This given polynomial is 1. One of the most important one you have to keep in your mind, root x plus 3 comma 1 by x plus 5 6 by x square minus 3x plus 1. They are not polynomials. If they are polynomials, they should be in the form of p of x. Okay student, let's move to the next concept, linear polynomial. The term that only indicates linear means it's a single. A polynomial of degree, see, a polynomial of degree 1 is called a linear polynomial. I hope you understood. A polynomial, this is all you learnt in your 9th standard. Of degree, what is the degree? The degree of that given polynomial must be 1. A polynomial of degree 1 is called a linear polynomial, and the general form of linear polynomial is p of x is equal to ax plus b, where a does not equal to 0. And the next thing, example we can give. So example, example 3x minus 5 root 2x plus 3 x minus 5. They are all examples of linear equations. Linear equations means a polynomial of degree. A polynomial of degree is 1. A polynomial of degree is 1 is called linear polynomial, and the general form of the linear polynomial is p of x is equal to ax plus b, where a does not equal to 0. Next example, you can see here, observe the polynomial x. What is the degree of the x here? 1. Here degree of the x 1. Degree of the x 1. So they are all belongs to the category linear polynomial. What do you mean by quadratic polynomial? Quadratic polynomials, a polynomial of degree 2 is called a quadratic polynomial. Any polynomial whose degree is 2, then we can call it as such a polynomial or quadratic polynomial. What is the general form of this quadratic polynomial? The general form of this quadratic polynomial or ax square plus bx plus c, where a does not equal to 0. You have to observe correctly. In the case of linear polynomial, the general form of linear polynomial is a p of x is equal to ax plus b, a does not equal to 0. In the case of quadratic polynomial, the polynomial of degree must be 2 and the general form of this will be a square plus bx plus c, where a does not equal to 0. Example, we can give the example. Observe the examples given below. So what we can say, 3x square plus 5x minus 8. Is it right? You observe the degree of the polynomial. Here x is 2, here also x is 2, here y is 2. That means the polynomial degree here 2. Such a polynomials are called as quadratic polynomial. Okay, the next concept, cubic polynomial. What do you mean by cubic polynomial? A polynomial of degree 3 is called a cubic polynomial. A polynomial of degree 3 is called a cubic polynomial. The general form of cubic polynomial is p of x is equal to ax square plus bx square plus cx plus d. What is the general form of the cubic polynomial? P of x is equal to ax cube plus bx square plus cx plus d, where a does not equal to 0. That is the general form of cubic polynomial. You can see the example, 2x cube minus 3x square plus 8x plus 1 root 2y cube minus 2y square plus y minus 8. If you observe in the given polynomial, you have to observe the power of the polynomial or degree of the polynomial. The degree of the polynomial in the given examples are all 3. Thus, they are all the examples of cubic polynomials. Like that, what do you mean by biquadratic polynomial? Biquadratic polynomial means a polynomial of degree 4. A polynomial of degree 4 is called a biquadratic polynomial. A biquadratic polynomial is of the form. What is the general form of biquadratic polynomial? Here also the same condition, a does not equal to 0. Ax to the power 4 plus bx cube plus cx square plus dx plus c plus e. That is the general form of the quadratic equation by quadratic polynomial. 2x to the power 4 plus 3x cube minus 5x square plus 9x. You can see the examples written. X to the power 4 plus bx cube plus cx square plus dx plus e. Here power will be the polynomial of degree. Power will be e itself only. This is because here it is a biquadratic polynomial whose power will be 4. The power of the polynomial is the power or degree, both we can say. If the degree of the polynomial is 3, that is known as cubic polynomial. Degree of the polynomial is 4 is called biquadratic polynomial. Degree of the polynomial is known as quadratic polynomial. Degree of the polynomial is 1 is known as linear quadratic equation. Now you understood the okay, the next concept will be real number. A real number k is said to be 0 of a polynomial if p of k is equal to 0. You have to understand, try to understand correctly. What is zeros of a polynomial? You learnt in your 9th standard. A real number k is said to be 0 of a polynomial if p of k must be equal to 0. If p of k is equal to 0, then we can say that it is a zeros of the polynomial. For example, we can see here, if p of x, the given p of x here, x square minus 4x plus 0. If x takes the value here, x will be 0. That means p of x here 2. Then replace x by 2 in the given polynomial. X replaced by 2. Then what you will get? 2 square minus 4 of 2 plus 4. Then 2 square means 4 minus 8 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 8 plus 4 plus 4 8. 8 minus 8 is equal to 0. Then 2 is a zeros of the polynomial. Why 2 is a zeros of the polynomial? Because p of k is equal to 0. Like p of 2 is also 0. Then we can call it as 2 is a zeros of the polynomial. Likewise, remainder theorem. What do you mean by remainder theorem? If p of x is any polynomial of degree greater than or equal. If p of x is a polynomial of degree greater than or equal to 1, and that p of x that should be divisible by the linear polynomial x minus a, then the remainder is p of a. That is next factor theorem. What is factor theorem? X minus a is a factor of the polynomial p of x. Then p of a is equal to 0. Then x minus a is a factor of p of x. This is all you learned in your 9th standard. That means in your previous class. So once again we can glance the pointer. So whatever the points we discussed today, an expression of the form p of x a naught plus a1x plus a2 into x square. That means the general form of polynomial. The highest power of the variable appearing in the polynomial is called the degree of the polynomial. Degree is nothing but power. The degree of the zero polynomial is not defined. This is the very most important point. The degree of the zero polynomial is not defined. The degree of non-zero constant polynomial is 0. A degree of polynomial 1 is called linear polynomial. A degree of polynomial is 2 is called quadratic polynomial. A degree of polynomial is 3 is called cubic polynomial. A degree of polynomial is 4 is called biquadratic polynomial. If p of k is equal to 0, then it is known as 0 of the polynomial. And if p of x is divided by the linear polynomial x minus a, then it is the remainder. That is known as remainder theorem. And factor theorem means x minus a is a factor of the polynomial p of x. Then p of a is equal to 0. Then x minus a is a factor of p of x. Okay, next we have to understand the geometrical meaning of the zeros of a polynomial. Geometrically, the zeros of a polynomial, say p of x, are the x coordinates of the points where the graph of y, p of x, intersect x-axis. So next we can see here I written 3 graphs. Is it right? P of x. The graph showing here, the graph of p of x showing here 3 zeros, A, B, C. Here how many zeros? The graph of p of x showing 2 zeros. The graph of p of x has no zero. So this is known as graphical representation of, this is known as graphical meaning of the zeros of the polynomial. So I can understand this one by one. Next we have to understand geometrical meaning of the zeros of the polynomial. What is the geometrical meaning of the zeros of the polynomial? Let us here we can understand that p of x linear polynomial, we know that the polynomial of degree 1. Here we can consider that p of x is equal to ax plus b, where a does not equal to 0, be a linear polynomial, which is always represented by a straight line. How to represent in graphically? We can represent linear polynomial by a straight line. The graph y is equal to p of x. You can write x dash y dash. We get like this graphical representation. Then the x coordinate of a. The x coordinate of a is the only 0 for the linear polynomial. Here point A touches the x-axis. Only one straight line we will get. This is about linear polynomial. Graphical representation of linear polynomial of ax plus b plus 0. That means you'll get a straight line. For the linear polynomial of the equation, you'll get a straight. So next we are discussing about the second case, geometrical meaning of zeros of a quadratic polynomial. Geometrical meaning of the zeros of the quadratic polynomial. Here let p of x is equal to ax square plus bx plus c, where a does not equal to 0, be a quadratic polynomial which is as shown either opening upward or downward according to a is greater than 0 or a is less than 0. This forms a curve. It's called parabola. That means you can see here it is a downward and upward. So polynomial, now we are discussing about geometrical meaning of the zeros of a polynomial, right? Geometrical meaning of the zeros of the polynomial as shown either it is a opening upward or downward. Either it is upward or it is a downward, depending upon a is greater than 0 or a is less than 0. This is form a like one curve is known as parabola. So this is for the geometrical meaning of the quadratic polynomial, and we can say that in this case the x coordinates of a and a dash are two zeros of the quadratic polynomial. Here it has touches at a also and it will be touches a dash also. Totally we can say that when the graph cuts the x-axis at two distinct points a and a dash, in this case x coordinates of a and a dash are the two zeros of the quadratic polynomial x square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. What is the zeros of the polynomial? Zeros of the polynomial of a quadratic polynomial. That means it touches the x-axis at a and a dash. These a and a dash are the zeros of the polynomial of quadratic equation. But you have to see it shows a parabola form. Should get a parabola. So here now we are discussing geometrical meaning of the zeros of a polynomial. Which type of polynomial? Geometrical meaning of the zeros of a quadratic polynomial. First case we studied, is it right? What's the first case? When the graph cuts the x-axis, right? When the graph cuts the x-axis, we get 2 points. It is a opening upward or downward parabola form we observed. In the second case, when the graph cuts the x-axis exactly at one point, if it cuts x-axis at exactly one point, what we can see, in this case, the 2 points a and a dash, here a and a dash coincide and become 1 point. Say x coordinate of a is only the zeros of the quadratic polynomial. In this case, we say that quadratic polynomial parabola has coincident zeros. Has coincidence 0. See here, has coincident zeros. Does not any points. Have you understood? You will get like this form of graph. When the graph cuts the x-axis at exactly 1 point, it cut the x-axis. Okay, it cuts the x-axis at exactly 1 point. Then you will get the graphical representation of the graph like this. That means in the last class, case only we discussed either opening upwards or downwards according to a is greater than 0 or a is less than 0. So here in the case, here a is greater than 0, it is upward. Here a is less than 0, that means the parabola becomes downward. That is, parabola has no coincident zeros and it is in the form of p of x is equal to x minus p whole square. It will take the form p of x is equal to x minus p whole square. This is the graphical representation of the quadratic polynomial of second case. Next we have to discuss about quadratic polynomial of the geometrical meaning of the zeros of quadratic polynomial of third. Okay, now we can see the third case. When the graph is either completely above the x-axis. Have you understood? Here we can see that the graph is either completely above the x-axis and completely below the x-axis. See, you can observe through the diagram. So here this parabola it is above, completely above the x-axis, because a is greater than 0. Here completely below the x-axis, because a is less than 0. In this case, have you understood? When the graph is either completely above the x-axis or completely below the x-axis, in this case the graph of y is equal to p of x does not cut the x-axis. It does not cut the x-axis at any point. That means the quadratic polynomial has no zeros. What is the zeros of the quadratic polynomial? The quadratic polynomial has no zeros. Has no zeros. It does not have any zeros of the polynomials. When in the case of 3, that means either completely above the x-axis or completely below the y-axis. In this case, the quadratic polynomial has no zeros. Keep this point in your mind. Okay, student.